Is Trump actually an isolationist? Well, today we're going to discuss. So today we are going to speak about if Trump is actually an isolationist and how it can affect the rest of the world. And I mention this because, it's not just, I love Trump or something like that, because his decisions as the president of the most important economy and powerhouse of the world have consequences to the rest of the world and are on, let's say, everyday issues on the rest of the world, not just to the United States. So that's why it's important to understand what's the end game or what's the forward guidance that this is important. This is why we do this here, because believe me, I don't care about politics. For me, I wouldn't talk about politics and politicians at all. However, the decisions of these people affect what happens to the rest of the world regarding investment, finance, macroeconomics, offshoring affairs, getting passports, citizenships, and logistics, supply chains, whatever might be the case. This is important, and that's why we are going to try a little bit of figuring out if Trump is an isolationist or not. The short answer that I can give is a 50-50 shot, because on one hand, Trump, yes, have these particular tendencies, America first and things like that. And by the way, of course, he has to serve his particular citizens, his voters, but also the people who did not vote for him. Still, he has responsibility towards them, and very good on that. So, if you're an American, okay, and I'm not saying that is a bad thing. However, he also causes things like they create disruptions to the rest of the world and also the US. And what the rest of the world is going to do is backlash against US citizens. And it's going right now. Not only average citizens that I see they're gonna have a bigger backlash on the near future. I'm talking months, maybe weeks, but certainly on the next year regarding traveling and getting paperwork and getting, passports, residencies, just traveling documents, just for visiting is it's gonna get harder. For instance, I have this friend that he is Mexican and he travels a lot throughout Africa. Very nice. And you know that the legal name of Mexico is United States of Mexico. That's the legal name in that is written on his Mexican passport. So every time that he got detained, I mean, on a customs, on a border, or something like that, he was checked very thoroughly if he's an American citizen or not. And when they know, okay, you're Mexican, so you can go. But if you're an American, you might have trouble if you're traveling on these African countries. Also, American companies. When now this particular dance with the tariffs, many American companies are getting affected throughout the world and doing investment or buying purchasing from these companies and things like that are let's say are more liabilities right now thanks to Trump's tariffs. I gave my my take on tariffs. Usually I don't like tariffs. I don't like taxes and things like that, extra taxes or extra frictions in order to do business. However, Trump is using it as a negotiation tool, and on that regard, are great until a certain degree. And right now, regarding Trump, I'm getting worried that he is passing that particular threshold. Just my thought on tariffs. Now, the real effect on the real world is that this particular, these balances that you see on the application of such tariffs are affecting American companies and American businessmen and American entrepreneurs. For instance, you saw this particular video on social media went viral that on a Canadian liquor store they are removing the American whiskey, the Jack Daniels, and things like that. Yeah, it was a sad day. Well, what happens is that is these things, this particular rhetoric, is gonna trickle down, can and it will trickle down unless it stops, regarding both American people for movement and traveling outside of the U.S. Remember that over 10 million American citizens are outside of the U.S., and also you have to add several tens of million U.S. citizens that travel abroad a lot. So they are affected for this thing. So what ends up happening is that American people finds more restrictions abroad, and American businessmen and American products also face extra challenges and extra frictions in order to do business abroad. Now, the case for Trump for not being isolationist. Well, he has great relationships with many of the world leaders abroad. I mean, you can see them here. He's with Macron and with Starmer, with Putin, but also with Zelensky before the fight, with several leaders in Latin America. Now he has Marco Rubio that has an excellent relationship with most of the political leaders in Latin America. And well, let's see, same thing with Asia, and even shaking hands of the leader of North Korea. I mean, Trump is a worldwide guy. I mean, he's not some guy from a small town. He has met people from every country throughout his years and so on. So basically, is not Trump is not foreigner to foreigners, and I think actually he's a guy who knows how to handle particular situations. Let's say he's a worldwide man, but he doesn't have this particular, let's say, protocol that diplomats used to have, or they still have, and Trump doesn't have it because he's not a diplomat, he's a businessman, normal businessman doing business. So the funny thing is that sometimes that's a good thing because he gets results that an average diplomat is not able to get, and he doesn't care. So, like Argentina said, le chupa un huevo. Okay, so it doesn't give a fuck, basically. And actually, you can argue that's a good thing. And now, what I see going on right now with Trump is that he's very worried about his legacy. I mean, what will be written about him on the history books in the US and other countries, and he wants to solidify his position. For instance, he talks about taking over Greenland and making Canada the 51st state, and the issue with the Panama Canal. So I think Trump has this, huge image about his legacy as a president, and he wants to solidify a great, something huge that will be discussed in decades to come, generation after generation. And I think that he's aimed for that. And it's going to be rough, because Trump has a particular rough way in order to do things. I'm a businessman doing business, yada yada. So, I mean, it's hard to predict. Let's be honest. He basically explained that on The Art of a Deal, and yeah, yeah. By the way, you have to read that book, and you have to if you have read it, read it again. By the way, I have to do it. I'm gonna do it another time because it's hard to predict, and but we have to keep up because affects the stock market, the currencies, the cryptocurrencies, traveling, passports, supply chains, logistics, relationships with overall. So if you are an international guy, if you are an offshore guy, you have to keep up, and I'm making this just in order to blow some steam a little bit because I wasn't let's say, as a costume to making these things and every change every single day, because on hours the status quo changes and it's hard to keep up. I'm trying to do my best here for you guys, the audience, and also for my clients. But yeah, it's a rocky situation that we have right now. We are not charting on calm waters, to say the least, and we're gonna try to do our best and see what happens. We're gonna have some, let's say, shaky next 4 years. Let's see what happens, and hopefully everything works for the best. Thank you for watching Continental Insider. Please like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on social media, and if you want to work with us, continentalinsider.com. Thanks again, and have a nice day.